Digital marketing seems to be the mystery that most entrepreneurs struggle with, and real estate investors are no exception. The truth is, there are multiple avenues to success. Those experiences will be best shared by the guests on this podcast. My name is Jason Wright, and I would like to welcome you to Real Estate Investor Marketing Stories. What is going on? Jason Wright here. I've got another great episode of the podcast. First intro I'm recording for 2024, even though the episode with the guest was recorded previously. Gotta like the honesty there, right? So yeah, there's a guest. Have not done a solo show yet on the podcast, so assume there's a guest until I tell you otherwise, but I will get to that because I have some things to say and want to reflect on the episodes I've done thus far and kind of talk about the future at some point. Before we get into the show, a couple thoughts. This year was a little bit different for me with the holidays. Generally, I get some downtime, get a week or 2 weeks to kind of reflect and work on new stuff. But this year, since we were in the new house in Georgia, we had kind of an endless stream of house guests for about 3 weeks, maybe 3.5 weeks. A little different experience than I'm used to. Today's actually a pretty quiet day. It's actually literally the calm before the storm. We've got a pretty nasty storm moving up through the Gulf. Closed school and everything. So I'm getting some podcasting done, getting some work cleaned up, and kind of working through the things now that I normally would a little earlier, or I guess a little later in the previous year. So it's all good. The end result's all the same. I am excited to see what this year has in store for me and for all of you listening as well. On the real estate front, we'll be doing more. My wife and I are actually looking to acquire our first investment home for the purpose of short-term rental kind of here in our local market. Some good opportunities there, and obviously there's some stress involved with that, with money down and closing costs and taking a risk on something new. So we have an interest in doing it for ourselves, and I think it'll give me more credibility as I continue to try to raise money from investors for my own short-term rental fund. So that'll be fun. And in the main business of digital marketing, continue to do what we're doing there and start to expand into some different industries as well, because the fundamentals are fairly universal. So that's exciting also. All right, enough with my updates. I've got a great guest this episode. I've got Igor Shaltanov. Hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. If I'm not, brother, I apologize, but I think I am. Here's what I know about him. So very interesting. First person I've ever met that I can say this about. He's a former professional water polo player. He's also the founder of a company called Avista Fund, and he got started in real estate in 2015. His focus has, for the most part, been value-add multifamily. So should be an interesting show for you guys to watch and listen to. Igor's a very interesting guy, very cool guy. He's got that California cool vibe going on. So let's check out the conversation I had with Igor. What is happening, my friend? How are you doing today?
How you doing, Jason? So thank you for having me. So we're doing pretty good. It's sorry guys, I got background noise a little bit for the next couple of minutes. So the guys are finishing up cleaning outside. But other than that, it's just the beautiful California, right? The leaves are falling, and then we getting into the fall season, I would say.
Very nice, man. So I'd love to hear how you got started down the road of real estate investing. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's a great story, I think, because I was playing professional water polo, right, and playing sports. It's I think it's a different gig, right? And then you just enjoy what you're doing, and then you get the money. You don't necessarily know what to do with that, and there's a couple of choices in your life. You can blow it up, or you can go to a nightclub, or you can do something else. And then I was unconsciously saying, so I think I'm leaning towards the savings more, and then just setting aside my money for the future, because I don't know what's going to happen. And especially, right, prepare myself for the life after the sports. So, and then I got into the real estate by just, saving. I said, okay, let me buy the apartment, and then I'm going to rent it to the people. And it felt like the life hack. And the reason why, because you invested the money in the beginning, and then all of a sudden, people are paying you money for living in there. It's like, man, that's just incredible. So have you done anything during the month? Not really. I mean, maybe a couple of calls to fix here and there, but not a lot of work involved, right? And then I was like, oh my goodness, I feel like, okay, I got to multiply those. And I got the second one and the third one. And then it was unconscious. And the reason why, because I was not thinking, what's my IRR? What's my ROI? I was like, okay, I'm going to set it aside. I was not through the numbers. It was just a unconscious decision on saying, okay, this is, people told me, somebody told me there's a best investments of this, right? And then I just leaned toward that direction.
Yep. Very nice. It's smart because I think, just thinking about the NFL, I think the average career of an NFL player is 3 years, right? And you hear all these stories about these guys making crazy money and buying Lamborghinis and watches and all kinds of stuff. And then when they get done with football, they have no plan. And some of these guys end up broke. Like a lot of them end up broke. And it's sounds like you were smart. Like, hey, this isn't going to last forever. Like I need to think ahead and set myself up. So that's awesome, man. Right now with your investing, are there any particular asset classes and or markets that you focus on?
Yeah. So let me double down on what you said. So there's more than 70% of professional players, whatever they play, go bankrupt in the 2 years after they stop playing. And this is just, I think it's just a crazy statistics, right? For the amount of money they accumulated through the career, everybody thinks they just set for life.
Yep.
But reality is absolutely different. And one of my things was my wife's brother was drafted by NBA team, right? And then this is basically exactly what happened, right? So if we got cut in the year like 2, right? And then all the expenses were very high, and then the income just dried out. And we just faced that reality. Okay, what you actually, and this is when I transitioned from actually Russia to United States, of saying, okay, and we got huge amount of debt, and we need to fix that, problem of not having income but having a lot of expenses.
Yep,
right, was huge. Answering your question, right? There's different asset classes because when we opened the fund, so when I moved to the United States, it took us about 5 years to get on feet, right? And then get settled all the problems financially and stuff like that. And then I started to transfer my real estate from Russia to United States. And the first of all, it was single family houses. And then very, very quick, I understand, like no one owns single family houses who's at the top of the ladder. Like,
yeah.
Maybe this BlackRock they buy for 5 years and sell it, just the pure speculation, right, on the high scale. But then I was like asking the people, what do you guys do? You don't own like a bunch of single family. You don't run around and fixing the toilets and water and this and that. You don't get the calls and stuff like that. So yeah, we own the apartment complexes. And then, so when we opened the fund, right, so we were really focused on different, it's a multifamily, but it's a different way of putting the money. What I'm trying to say is we were trying to do ground up development. We were trying to do the existing multifamily houses. So we just branch out into the storage as well. So, and the reason why, because we were making sure for the future investors into the Avista Fund, so we know exactly what's going on the market. Like we really tested our money right into each operator and each asset class. And then as of today, we have a ground up development. We have existing multifamily buildings, the A+ class, right? We do have, we're down to C probably, right?
Yep.
Then we have storage facility, and we actually do have a couple of private equity investments as well. So we tried different vehicles, right, to really understand the syndication world.
Nice. Are there any specific markets that you focus on?
Yeah. So that's a good question, Jason. I think there's, in my mind, was always 3 things. So there's location of risk. There's there's a risk of management, right? Mm-hmm. And the last one is just, the asset class itself. Like, what if tomorrow everybody will buy a single family house, and then the apartment complex will be like, it was bugging in my mind, right? I was like, okay, let's just focus on a couple of things. First of all, we'll start in California, back to your question, right? And then I was like, okay, let's look at the California market. So we really niche we have chosen the Oakland, which is next to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And then this quality of life, and then the amount of money you should have just to be able to survive in San Francisco, just insane. Speaking of real estate, right? And people start to move down, right? And then move over the bridge, right, to the Oakland area. And then it's just the area where we just convert, and I say, okay, this is California, that's fine. But then it's a very specific market, right? And it was the Riders Capital Group, who's super well known in just one specific market, Oakland, California. So, and we had it tested first, but then from there we just moved to the East Coast. So we went to Virginia, right? There's a beautiful opportunity. It was half boarded building, right? It was 48 units, half of them boarded, half of them occupied. And then the guys from Navy, actually the ex-Navy guys, they did a great job. It was Fairwind Capital Group. So, and then we moved down to Florida because we really start to test even the states. Okay, which state is going to be performing better? So, and then that was the first thought. And then the second thought, like I said, was just the diversification between the groups, because, every group is different. It's might be 5 people, it's might be 25 people, maybe a Rise Equity 48, it's 50 people, 50 employees, right?
Yep.
And we start to do different locations, different operators to diversify that risk.
Got it. Nice. So what marketing strategies have worked for you so far? What have you done to successfully attract new investors to what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we're doing right now, it's a podcasting, right? And then talking to people, basically sharing your story. That's very powerful. And then going online, meaning, so you do on the podcast, you share on the social media, right? You give a material, like really learning material, right? Something people don't know, you just share on LinkedIn, right? And people reach out to you. And the majority of the clients, it's friends and family, will start to reach out to people saying, this is what we do. If you guys interested, let's have a call together, right? Or maybe grab a lunch real quick. So, and that was just a very powerful strategy for us.
So you said something that I like, and I always tell people, I get this question all the time, whether it's email or text or social media. People are like, I don't know what to talk about. I say, when in doubt, educate, right? If you can educate people and you can do it with your story mixed in, there's always going to be other people that resonate with you. Have you found that to be true as well?
I think so, yes. It's a mindset of not pushing and selling, right?
Yeah.
Just don't do it. And because you really, how do you say that? You just really build the trust with people, right? Because there's one thing is they're going to give you hard-earned money at the end of the process, right? They just really hard-earned money. And then some people rely on that like a last resort. They might just build a fund for college fund, right? Like for the kids to go to college. And then they would just want to multiply that because all of a sudden they got 2 kids or 3 kids, right? And then this is the very important for us, right? Just to make sure it's not selling approach, but really educating people. And some people just pay so much taxes and they never knew. And you think they just very sophisticated, and they think, I think they just very sophisticated, right? And then I start to talk to them and they, we don't know. We don't invest in real estate. So I say, listen, there's some tax breaks and there's structures, there's trust structures and stuff. And they start to go deeper and they're, thank you, right? And it doesn't mean they need to be with me. I said, listen, this is what exists. Go talk to your CPA, go talk to your attorney. I don't know, just ask people around because I feel like there's something missing, right?
Yep. It's amazing how many people do not understand that there's options beyond the stock market. I've had a couple conversations with buddies recently, and they're like, I have X amount to invest. And, we have a fund as well. And I just try to, like you said, try to educate them in general about real estate. Invest with me, invest with somebody else. They don't care. But it's like, they're like, no, that sounds scary. I'm just going to stick with the stock market. And I'm like, how do you like that volatility? How do you like the lack of tax breaks? Like, there's other options. I just don't get it. So educating and then like getting people comfortable is huge for bringing new investors kind of into that space, All right, we're going to switch it up on you a little bit. What would you say is your biggest mistake or biggest regret so far in regards to your marketing?
So just regarding the marketing. Yeah. I think one of the things are, because marketing in general, super complicated. It's there's so much stuff you can do, right? And I feel like spreading too thin and too wide, that's one of the probably the biggest mistakes. And then so there's got to be strategy before you start marketing, and it just must have KPI, right? As you go into the marketing without strategy and KPI, it's going to be just blow off the side. Like you're going to lose all of your money.
Yep.
It's never enough. Like you can't pour the bucket into the ocean, right? because that's been happening with the marketing. But so we did it multiple times, and because again, my first career was pro athlete, the second career was entrepreneur. And every time when we spend the budget on, oh, let's do the Facebook ads, right? And it's just a great, brilliant idea. Everybody's doing this, and you go into this thing, and you're going down to this rabbit hole, right? And it's getting darker and darker and darker, right? And the reason why there's no strategy, there is no KPIs for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Facebook ads or any kind of paid traffic, it's an easy way to lose a lot of money. We run a little bit of cold traffic just to build the list with at least a relevant audience, but we rely heavily on our back end. Like once we get people into our list, I try to tell people marketing is really, if you think about it, it's just like building relationships in real life. If you said, I think you said you're married, correct? So you probably didn't propose on the first date, did you?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So there's a getting to know you period. You got to feel each other out. Is this person interesting? The same thing with marketing. So if you can get people into your world and then you have the emails and the text and the podcast and the value that you share, people will feel you out and go, okay, this is where a place I want to be, or it's not. And either way, it's fine. But we've really, our company's done an amazing job with that back end marketing. And it's real important. As you know, a lot of people ignore it. I'll do it later. And they put all their effort into social media with no plan, right? What if somebody does talk to you? What are you going to do next? What if they don't book a call and they don't know? So they just move on to somebody new, which is a really big mistake. So it's interesting. I've heard people when we used to do paid traffic for clients, people would say, hey, Jason, if this doesn't work, these Facebook ads, in 30 days, I'm going to be out of business and divorced. And I was like, I don't want any part of this. I don't want to be involved in this scenario. That's crazy, So, all right. I'd love to hear a story about your real estate investing journey. It can be here, it can be back in Russia, either way, that you haven't shared publicly. So maybe it's something funny, maybe a lesson you learned, whatever you want to be. So let us get to know you a little bit deeper.
I never share publicly. I think there's one thing was, I would probably share one of the regrets in the beginning. So there was I bought a house and then I remodeled the backyard, and then I did the kitchen, right? Rented to the people. Mm-hmm. And it's working beautiful, in California. And then there's 2 houses down, there's another house. And there's a sign, and there's notice on it, right? I was like, man, there's opportunity there. And then I just, go on the window, right? I read that notice, there's names on it, right? I was like going into the, those databases, right? When you just buy for $1, the trial period, right? I search for people and I get email, the social accounts, and I start to reach out to them. I was like, listen, do you want to, and there's different phone numbers and there's different social media outlets, right? And one of them, I don't know, work. I don't know which one, probably Facebook or so. And they're like, yeah, we want to sell house. And I was like, man, that's bingo, right? And there's a price 400, I don't know, let's say around $400,000, right? That's what I want to pay. And then we talking back and forth, and it's 2015. We talking back and forth, and she said, yeah, I'm ready to sell, but it's not 400, it's going to be 450. And then maybe about a couple of weeks after, she's reaching out to me and say, I called a couple people, we want a 420. And I was like, no way, we're going to do 415. And she said, no, 420. And then they sold that house for 420 or 425. I forgot the exact price. So that same house, 5 years after, I never bought it, right? Then I talked to construction, I just fixed the house next door. I brought all the team and I said, listen, this is what we're going to do. Yeah, we can do it easily. Same shit, same project, right? There's nothing. Even layout was the same. And then into 2020, it sold for $1.1 million. And that was one of my big sales. Why would I just think about $5,000 that one same day? Just, it's a longer picture. It's a different game. So it was one of my, kind of my regrets until now.
Yeah, the best teachers definitely experience, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just a great experience. And, after that, I was like, yeah, that's a great lesson. So don't get stuck with the $5,000 thing.
Absolutely. So if you were going to have a conversation today with a brand new capital raiser, you said, "Hey, Igor, I'm ready to get rolling." What advice would you give them in regards to your marketing for somebody who's just about to put themselves out there and try to raise capital for their own deals or somebody else's deals?
I'm not sure if I can advise on that because I'm still consider myself brand new, right? But at the same time, there's a lot of wisdom I pick up from Hunter Thompson, right? The mastermind of Raise Masters. And I would say the huge thing it's educate, right? And it's never going to be enough, right? That people they lean in towards education, they lean in towards that help, right? The help idea and that sell idea. That's one. And the second one, you want to be in front of 1,000 people, not in the room of 100. That was super powerful lesson I learned from Hunter's I would say material, right? Because you can scale yourself through online branding and marketing 10 or 1,000x, right? Compared to you go on one-on-one lunch where you go on like a 1 to 10, 1 to 100, right into the seminar.
Yep.
It's powerful, but it's not even, I don't think it's even close to what outreach you can get using outlets, right, of social media and then email marketing and the back-end automation. So I think this is super, super powerful, but that's what you guys actually doing, right? The thing is, because you go out on a podcast, for example, right, and you never know who's going to be watching that thing. But you don't know, right?
Yep.
But the people will go to your website, they fill out the form because they do really like what you're saying, right? So they just can relate to this thing. And then I think this is the most powerful thing. I don't, in my experience, I wouldn't say advice, in my experience, right? Just you sell through the internet and online marketing.
Yep. So a couple things there. Yeah, Hunter's a really good dude. He's a good friend of mine. He's a great marketer. If you look at his podcast and all the stuff he does with Raise Masters, the guy puts out a lot of content. I mean, there's a lot of content, the book, the new Fund of Fund Mastery deal he put out there. So yeah, he's doing a lot of things really well there. Podcasting. So podcasting is an interesting thing. I think this is my 4th podcast. I used to be a paid host for a show and it was weird. It was on like, this was like 5-6 years ago. It wasn't AI. It was on something around AI. It was really weird. And I was eventually like, I don't want to do this. It's too weird. But yeah, it took me like 2.5 years with my first podcast before I ever got anything out of it, right? Like booked call or anything. Like somebody mentioned it finally. And I was like, God, all this time and money, somebody's actually paying attention. But since then, I think I've guested on approximately 85 shows and I've done a couple hundred of my own. I've definitely got business from podcasts, built relationships. So it's been ROI positive for sure. The easiest thing you can do is be a guest on somebody else's show, right? You just got to show up and talk. They'll produce it. They'll take care of the rest. So getting in front of new audiences is great. I think all podcasts, if you're a host, they should have a video element to it because then you can just repurpose it even more. So I love podcasting. It's fun. It's a great use of both of our time. And yeah, man, it just helps you stand out so much more so than just posting on LinkedIn. Something else that's interesting, and I'm going to butcher the statistic, but let's just say 90+% of podcasts fail in less than 10 episodes, meaning people stop producing them and give up before episode 10. That's sad. 10 episodes? That's like working out 10 times and be like, I quit, which people do that too. So something to think about. All right. So we are recording this at the tail end of August in 2023. As you look forward to the end of this year, what are you most focused on in your business?
Just in nurturing the clients and getting new leads. Through the online, like I said before. So, and I think that's all the powerful thing you can do. And I went to Harvard University for the real estate investment and finance, and there's a lot of great content I actually took from there because again, they giving you the course, which is again, it's breaking down into the structure, and when I was learning that, probably half of it was just kind of making sense because we knew it before just by doing business, by actually being on the field and actually doing things. But then the other half was like, oh, I didn't know this, I didn't know that. And it's pretty simple stuff, right? And I just repurpose and just, let the people know it exists, right? And then just post those things. And I think it's just working really well. And I'm looking forward for the end of the year, because right now people, I wouldn't say they're just most comfortable times for them to invest. They kind of wait until the end of the year. I mean, some people say, no, we don't know. It's going to be the election rate next year. So what's going to happen? The market kind of cracking down as well. So, and I think being in front of the eyes of people, that's the most important for now. And then focusing on education and just material. That's my thing.
Yeah, it's smart. It's always perplexing when I'll talk to somebody and they're like, I want to find deals first, and then I'll worry about finding new investors later. I'm like, you sure you have that in the right order? I think you should be finding new investors always, So, all right. For anybody watching or listening, if they want to get more info from you or learn more about what you're doing, how can they best do so?
It's a great question. So it's going to be on avistafund.com. So they can go ahead and check it out, the website, right? And then just fill out the form so we can stay in contact. And then you can just send me email, right? Just shoot me email, Igor@avistafund.com, and I'm going to be happy to respond anytime.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you very much.
Yep. See you. Yep. See you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the show. I had a great time making it, and I hope you really enjoyed yourself listening to it. If you want to keep up with all things Real Estate Investor Marketing Stories podcast related, I encourage you strongly to go to reimarketingstories.com and signing up for our podcast newsletter. We will simply keep you up to date with what's going on at the show, new episodes, and things like that. reimarketingstories.com. So hopefully today's episode and the other episodes that you'll listen to will remind you that as a real estate investor, everybody starts at the beginning, okay? Our guest today and the other guests that you will hear on the show will share their real story, right? They'll tell you what worked, what didn't work. And I want you to remember one thing, if you remember nothing else today. It's possible for you too, okay? Never stop going and keep following your passion. Finally, today's show has been brought to you by capitalraisingautomations.com. If you're an active capital raiser, you are ready to learn the 3 areas that are holding you back from raising more capital, I strongly suggest you check out capitalraisingautomations.com. Check out our free 10-minute video there, and you let me know if it doesn't provide you value. I'm sure it will. All right, thanks again for listening to the show this week. Hope to see you next time. Take care.